Hey, Tim Comas from Twin Cities Blueprint. I'm here to introduce my first ever podcast, which I didn't even go into this wanting to make a podcast. I just wanted to go in to talk to a guy I met at a farmer's market because every single time I talk to the people at farmer's market running their businesses, I've just been curious about it. I think it's fantastic when people go out on their own and either strike out or make it and chase their dreams. And so it took me a while to even come up with a name for this podcast, which is What If You Did? Because that is a great way to constantly think about things of what if you just did it? What if you took those opportunities? What if you decided to climb that mountain, run the marathon, whatever, or chase whatever dream it might be? I'm a business owner. It's tiring. It's exhausting. It's not meant for the weak-willed and those who are looking for a get-rich-quick scheme. It's something different. And so this first episode, I met with Tim from Minimum Wage Tim. So I met him like 2 years ago, running at a farmer's market. I just wanted a cup of coffee post-meal at the Heathers in South Minneapolis. And I've been following him on Instagram ever since, and he's continued to build his business up. It was never supposed to be a podcast. It's a little awkward here and there, but I'm really excited for what this whole potential podcast will turn into and how it'll grow. And I'm hoping to build up more comfort on the idea of, hey, I've got a camera here. I don't need to be on camera and have more of an authentic conversation as it goes. Absolutely love Tim and Minimum Wage Tim's coffee. He's a great guy, and I've continued to have good conversations with him on Instagram ever since. And Tim, thanks for meeting with me. Those of you who want to get some extra PR, costs you nothing to meet with me. Let's get a cup of coffee. Let's talk. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in, and let's get to What If You Did? So, I met you now like 3 years ago.
Seriously, it was, now that you reminded me of that.
Yeah, my wife and I literally just went to the farmer's market right after I met you, or right after we had dinner. I went and got a coffee from you because I always want to post coffee any time of day. And then basically I found out your name was Tim, and then that has basically formed this weird Instagram social media friendship.
That's right.
So, all right, you told me now I'm doing this way longer than I thought you have. You've done this since 2018.
Or so, yeah. Right.
Minimum Wage Tim's Coffee, or Tim's Minimum Wage Coffee? What's the actual brand?
Minimum Wage Tim's.
Okay.
But it was not ever even called that until 2021, and that's what I kind of mean by launching then, because I started like doing the popcorn popper, and I was in my garage, and I would put it. I even started giving it to people, or like selling it to people. So I'd be like, yeah, $10 or whatever. Here you go, in just a bag, like a craft paper bag that you can just order from anywhere. And eventually I got a stamp made of a caricature that I had done for a band that I was in. That was like a sketch of me for the cover.
I don't think I realized that was you on the cover.
Yeah, it was like an album cover, and then basically we got it rearranged so it was less like, because it was exactly like a ripoff of a Kurt Vonnegut sketch.
Okay.
That like I wrote a song about, and we're like, oh, we'll do this as a single because it doesn't really fit on this project we're doing. So we just put it out, and I'm like, oh, dude, you know how Kurt Vonnegut signs his name? He'll like draw a sketch of himself, and he'll like sign the name where the ear is, because it's all like this. And so I had him do that, and then it's WHG for Witch Hunter General, which is the name of the band on the ear. And I looked at it recently, and I was like, wow, that actually does look way different than the new version. I used to always be like, oh, this is kind of the same thing, just a little bit changed.
Okay.
But the actual logo now does look quite a bit different, because I went back to the same guy, Andrew Tompton, great dude, still around town, plays with Purple Funk Metropolis and a bunch of other bands.
Okay.
But he made me the original thing. I was like, dude, can you just like make it look a little more like me, clean it up, and just kind of put like Minimum Wage Tim's Coffee Co. around it or whatever. And he did that in one day. And I asked him to send me an invoice, and he did for $4.20, which I promptly paid. So that's what I paid for my logo.
Very hipster of him.
Yeah. So I realized how different it was, and it just kind of evolved into that. But I was stamping like the old one, and I wish I still had the stamp, like the original stamp, because it was not what it looks like now.
It's one of those things where
and I still stamp on the back to this day, because it's easiest for me just to...
I didn't realize it's a manual stamp. I just assumed it came on the bag and you were there.
I used to get them printed like when I started.
Yep.
which you'd think that I'd go the other direction. Yeah, my dad sells the printers that you do the printing on.
Oh, cool.
And so that's why I had craft paper. So I just run them. I just go into his office and just run them through the demo printer. And that was great. But eventually it's like, okay, I got to truck them onto Egan. I got to run them through the machine. So now I just have a stamp and I just boom, boom, boom. When I switched to white bags, I had to get an ink that like works on non-porous surfaces. That was always the holdup for me. Was the
How do you get to actually stick and
stick
not?
on.
Yeah,
And it looks a little, it's not as clean probably as it could always look, but I don't know. I think people like knowing too, or like if they do, that I'm like stamping them all. I don't think people mind. Like if it's a little sloppy, it's like, well, it's because he actually like, stamped this.
It adds that personal touch, and like you see right now, Starbucks is tanking for a lot of reasons. So as someone who used to be a Starbucks barista, I sort of understand why.
Yeah.
Because I worked in the small coffee shops, and I'd rather have this. And like Minneapolis and St. Paul have cousins, hundreds. I don't know, like you probably have known when
Yeah,
we
we gotta
were
get out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always, especially around Christmas time every year, I think it's Pillar Forum over on Central puts this out. It's a map of like all the coffee shops, like, and it's explicitly like, do not go to Starbucks, go to these places instead, because it's that time of year where they like pump their different drinks and stuff, or I don't even know what the deal is, but.
No, like the local coffee shop scene is amazing, and the thing I was amazed at is, while I followed you on Instagram, honestly, it was just seeing your name pop up random places. So like I would meet clients at Rustica, and that was where I saw your name. I was like, oh yeah, this is a huge place for you to be at. And you continue to get rotation. We're in Cosmic Coffee right now, which is one of the many coffee shops I still have not been on, and we'll probably do some sort of Foodie Friday on to even have a full cafe menu. And this is
The Boss Burrito's good. I had one before you got here.
yeah.
Every Friday I eat one.
This is very Northeast in the best way. Like I still love the Northeast culture and everything that comes with it. 'Cause I feel like Uptown, which has kind of lost some of its luster, I totally see the walkability of it. But in terms of like having the local mom and pop shops, Northeast is still the place to go in my opinion.
I think so. I think Uptown's coming back though. I think, but not in the same way.
No.
It's becoming a little more geared toward people that live there again, which is good. But the people that live there are just a little different than who lived there in the '90s.
Yep.
And I think a great example of this, I mean, it's still in the early stages, but you see Curioso down there. There's another shop I think opening across the street, and like the Green Road.
Yep.
On Lake Street. I mean, that's like a great example of like, that's owned by musicians that are just in the scene and like has all the best shows going on. And it's like that, I think that's the blueprint for like what like Uptown is gonna be, like Uptown.
I've always come at it from the aspect of like, you look at people right now, like I live in Chaska. My walkability, I talked about it with a therapist one time of like, Chaska's not my end goal. And she's like, what's your walkability out of there? It can't be that bad. And I looked it up on Zillow. It's a
I was
1.
gonna say, they have a score, yeah.
1 out of 100. So it's horrendous.
I don't think I've lived anywhere with a lower score than like 80.
I just could, like, I went to school in Winona, which Winona is a town where we always made the comment of like, it is really hard to get a DUI in that town because you can literally walk from one side to the other in under 2 hours.
I went to Eau Claire, same deal.
Yeah, same type of thing. You can walk from one side to the other. And then I lived in Chicago, and you've got public transit and everything else. And then I lived in Australia, and then I moved up here, and just when I lived in the city, and then I met a girl, and she pulled me out to Chaska because that's where she owned the house, and eventually we'll get back here. But the coffee shop culture with the walkability with it is such a huge aspect of it. And that's the thing I still love. And when you look at what Uptown has, where I lived right by Corner Coffee there, where the sinkhole was actually, right where that last giant sinkhole formed.
Yeah.
That was where my apartment was, and so I'm very glad I did not live there when the sinkhole formed.
Yeah, because I lived there. I lived on 25th and DuPont in like 28. That's where I started roasting.
Yeah, I lived
like,
27th and Hennepin. So when that thing opened up, I was like, I'm so glad I don't live here, because I lived on a one-way street where that would have just been a nightmare.
I was in that, the wedge. I was on one of those.
Yep.
One way.
Yep, it was the same type of thing where it was just a little triangle point that gets you out to Hennepin.
Yeah, that wedge, man. It'll get you.
The worst part about the house is like the house address I had, which was like 2681. We were Girard, and this house across from us was 2681 Hennepin.
No.
And so all the time I would get like, I'd hire a dog walker, and they'd be like, I can't get it.
Yeah, you got
He's
the
not
number.
working. I was like, no, you're just literally across the street. That's a different house.
Fair enough, though. It has the number right on it.
does.
It's on the street.
I remember moving mattresses to the people across the street who got it delivered to the wrong place and stuff like that.
You can't beat the access to the Greenway over there, though.
No,
I'd be in like Highland Park at my friend's house in like 40 minutes on bike.
Yep.
Like without touching a road.
Well, and like North Loop right now is kind of replaced Uptown where like the 20-somethings
That's
live.
where I live.
Because is that where you live?
Yep.
How old are you?
28.
28, yeah. So you're still in the 20s.
Yeah, my wife works in that building across from Target Center, the Target Field that they just built.
And so I think Uptown is going to pull, because you can't really buy anything to live in North Loop except condos. And
I was gonna say, yeah, you could totally buy a condo. I live in a condo building,
Yeah.
and I rent a condo from a guy. The HOA fees are, I don't know how he does it, because like I
astronomical.
feel like I barely cover the HOA fees with my rent.
a lot of times it's the fact of basically that, where it's
Literally.
you sell this place and it's going to take a huge loss because the HOA fees are fucking insane.
Yeah, I want to buy. I would love to live in that building. It's like I don't know. Maybe one day. I don't want to leave that building. It's an awesome place, but
The HOA fees have gotten insane, and like this last year especially, like my personal homeowner's insurance went up $1,400. I have never filed a claim, and that's just because everything that people
by
say
existing.
by existing, because things are getting more expensive. In addition to the fact of like, I am looking forward to what LA wildfires are going to do to my house insurance next year. In addition to the hurricanes that Florida.
yeah, not our fault.
Basically, what's going on right now is I'm helping fund those areas' insurance policies.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, my coverage doesn't.
There's definitely two classes of people in my building because they own the 710, 720, 730 lofts, like the whole block.
Yep.
Of lofts, and it's like everyone there is kind of old, and they're the people that own the units, and then everyone there is kind of young. I think generally is renting from the people.
It's astronomical.
There's no way you could afford those it just would be a bad decision. To me, it makes more sense to rent.
Yeah. And I don't understand why it is North Loop specifically seems to have struggled with managing
no house-
HOAs.
there's no houses.
Yeah. And so the condos there all seem to, I don't know, this is diving more into my business than your business, but like when it comes to condos, people always get frustrated with the HOAs because the HOAs have a schedule of replacement. And so like I was just talking to my mom about the fact she's going to replace her furnace. And the issue is like the average person who owns a single family house doesn't immediately move in and go, great, in 20 years, I'm going to replace this furnace. I'm going to save $10,000 over the next 20 years. They just don't do it. And HOAs do that. They budget for you.
Yeah.
And I run a budget. I hate running a budget. And so HOAs budget for you. People hate it. And then a lot of times people get mad that
Perspective. Because honestly, the benefit
Improve it.
in here is freaking sweet, man. They're always showing up and just doing work on my fixing stuff, just preventative maintenance.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
And that's exactly, like, it's the way it should be. Like, you should actually live that way. The average homeowner doesn't. I work that way because I live in a world where I just get to see so many inspection reports. It kind of taints things for you, where it's like, oh, this is for sure going to happen if I don't do this, if I don't do this, if I don't do this. So,
Yeah, it was sad to leave South, because I was South Minneapolis, and I feel like I built a lot of my business in South Minneapolis.
yep.
But then when I moved, I didn't need the detached garage anymore.
Okay.
And then my wife,
So it was literally the garage you were roasting out of?
yeah. So I ordered a drum basically. So it was like a drum roaster. I ordered it from Korea. I got there in like a couple days. It was very fast. But it's it's big. Put about a kilo of coffee in there.
Okay.
And I pretty much ripped everything off to the point where it was like a metal cage that I covered up the sides.
Okay.
So there was nothing getting out. And then just like a motor.
Okay.
Had like a drum inside.
Okay.
And just a motor, because there was a probe and stuff that came with it, like a temperature probe, like a candy probe. And I just ripped it out. And I took, literally, if you go to my giant big roaster that I have at my facility now, you'll see the exact same thing. It's a thermocouple
Okay.
running to these hardware things called a Fidget, which is like, you just got to order it. It's a company called Fidget, a PH,
Okay.
And you got to run through these different hardware things, and it converts the data, and you can run through this open source program called Artisan, which I was using in 2019 or whatever.
Yep.
And I still use this, literally the same program that I downloaded all that time ago, new computer and all that, to run the thermocouple. So I had all the tracking and stuff, right?
I guess I didn't realize that there's any sort of technology aspect with that, because coffee's been roasted
we're
for
tracking
hundreds of years.
We're tracking stuff as it goes. See what a profile looks like. But then there's things you can manipulate like gas. So I was using like green camping gas over a camp stove.
Okay.
And using that as like my gas percentage dial.
Okay.
And then I had airflow as well. So I had the only thing I could find that was heat resistant was 1.25" motorcycle exhaust piping. It was small enough because it fit right just on my top of my thing.
Okay.
The roaster. This is pulling everything out. This is why I sealed it. This is pulls out hot air and chaff.
So was this thing really designed to roast, or did you MacGyver it together?
It was designed to roast, but I designed it to roast in the same way that a giant coffee roaster works.
Okay, so like sort of MacGyver.
Because when you're small, what's gonna happen is it's called chaff, like like wheat, like chaff of wheat. It comes off of the coffee as you roast it,
Okay.
and basically it's just a fire hazard. Like it's something that's just gonna catch on fire immediately. It's papery, and that's just gonna be dropping into your fire, your heat source. If you don't develop some sort, and people that use this machine like the way it's intended, it's just a fire problem all the time. Like it's not really designed to work the same way a real drum roaster does. So I put the thing on there. There's a duct fan on the other end, and I had to keep going up in strength. But it had I had dials on it always.
Okay.
Voltage dials, so I could up, down, pull the chaff and hot air out.
Okay.
And then the chaff would be going through a cyclone separator.
What's the chaff?
Oh yeah, that's that silvery, papery stuff that's coming off the coffee bean when you roast it.
Okay.
So it's like a fire hazard basically. It's like
Hey.
it's like kind of papery and it's small, like little husks.
Okay.
And it gets pulled out, and then in a cyclone separator, which is how a vacuum works, the chaff just drops down into this big thing I had.
So basically just waste from the coffee?
Yes, just waste material. That's part of that like 15% weight loss that we see during the roasting process.
Okay.
And then the hot air would just go out through a like dryer vent that I install. So this is all just built like on the wall in my garage. And basically we see things like this.
Oh my God.
So like this one was actually one where I was like way behind and trying something different.
This is way more engineering than I thought.
Yeah, it just looks like this and stuff. So I've always been using this. Like, this is our bean temperature according to the probe, and it's important to remember that your beans aren't actually cooling down from that. That's just the probe catching up.
Okay.
And then this is our, calculus, a little rate of rise. This is your derivative.
That is a
basically.
term I have. I recently had to do like actual math where I broke out pen and paper, and I was like, this is so hard.
Yeah, they used to just calculate the rate. I mean, it's easy to calculate the rate of rise in this situation, but you used to have to do it on paper before this.
God. Okay.
But this is an open source thing. But there's two dudes in Europe that run it, and I've been doing some consulting for like the place that I do my roasting at. And
Did you
set up
YouTube University then?
No.
Or did you just like
real life university, brother. And
just searching random Google things of like
University of the Streets. No, forums. Or a lot of forums. Home Barista, Reddit.
I was gonna say, is there a subreddit for coffee roasting?
But there's not. It was basically compiled. Yes, there is.
Okay.
And it's basically compiled from all that stuff. There's not a lot of good information on there. It's mostly people posting their coffee beans and be like, I did my first roast. Does this look good? It's like, can't tell, bro. It's a picture of coffee beans. I can't tell you if it's good or not.
I would imagine like anything where you're trying to perfect a recipe, you probably just
Yeah, and we can use, and now I even have more tools where I can like measure the exact color of the inside and outside, so you can determine it's exactly the same.
Okay, so why the fuck did you basically get into this anyway? Because
I like tinkering, right? It was like the tinkering and using like misfit stuff. Like I built a cooling tray out of just like an old shower caddy thing that, just all sorts of weird stuff. It's just fun. It's just fun to do in the garage. Getting the coffees and just like dialing them in and like kind of learning how they react in the roaster was nice because I could just get like 10, 20, 30 pounds of coffee, which now is like one batch for me. But at the time that would last me a couple of weeks of like, okay, I can try this, constantly trying to repeat things on something that was very hard to repeat.
Yep.
So now when I have these giant machines with a ton of control, it's like a walk in the park. I can kind of do whatever I want. But I kind of developed a style that I take with me today that makes me a little bit different just in how I like actually do the roasting process.
Yep.
Where that I got because I was using like an underpowered machine by basically just like blasting at the beginning. And then basically trying to get up really fast in temperature, getting to the point where it's exactly where I want it, and then not going any further and like sit it.
Because you started off tinkering.
So the difference is like low and slow, where it'd take forever to get there, boom, or you can go fast and hot. I'm like getting there quick and then
leveling off immediately.
leveling off immediately.
Okay, so you started with tinkering, and was coffee always basically the goal? Like, oh, I'm going to tinker with coffee and see where it's at? Or was it like, oh, I will get into like, I am currently in that stage of maybe I should buy a 3D printer and tinker with that?
It was. A lot of it was kind of like the pursuit of something as like a creative thing. Like it's kind of fun to produce these coffees. Like I was doing songwriting and playing with my band and stuff at this time, and it like scratches that same itch.
A creative itch of just like, I want to create something.
And it is kind of like, it's a creative thing and like an entrepreneurial thing of like, not specifically entrepreneurial as in like I want to make money doing something, not working for someone else. More like I want my work to be being recognized for like my creative work, basically, or like getting paid to do my creative work. By people that like want to engage with it. That's
So how long
engage with it.
did you go from, hey, I'm making coffee in the garage, and I imagine you probably threw away hundreds or dozens of pounds of coffee before you found out something worked?
Yeah, no. Okay, you get it. Okay, bad coffee is still, it's like pizza.
Yeah, it's still,
You can still drink it.
it's still pretty good. It's still like, it's in front of me. We've all had that gas station.
We just had
cup
it
of coffee.
dialed in. I read some books and stuff, but the forums and the books. But after a while, because I got into that during COVID, I was lacking a lot of that community situation. So I didn't have a lot of other people involved. And then kind of at the tail end of this, SK Coffee through the Roasters Showcase at their Vandalia place out in St. Paul. And I went to it. I didn't just roll in. People were like, oh, you should go to this. I had tried my coffee that were in the industry. And when I went, they were like, oh, Tim, what's up? I'll introduce you to Jeff, who's the head of coffee at Folly, and Brett, who runs our facility. And they just basically like, oh yeah, like come check it out. By around this time, like I think 2 years ago now, they were like, yeah, you come in here and basically pay us by the pound, this much or whatever. You can kind of move in. And so,
Sam, this is all stuff I did.
they taught me how to transfer my concept to the big roaster. And then kind of left me on my own after that. But I have a lot of help from the other people that roast in there too, doing like sourcing and things. Like just yesterday I was cupping, which is how we evaluate coffees, with Northern Coffee Works. They were like sharing their samples because we're trying to figure out what we're going to order. We want to not order the same thing and share a palette so we don't have to each pay transportation.
Way more collaborative in the coffee space than I would actually imagine. Where it's like everyone wants to see everyone else succeed. And
well, because we're not competition with each other, right? Like our competition is like Starbucks or Caribou even. Every person that Wesley Andrews converts to being a specialty coffee person is like someone now that's like a customer for me, someone that was accessible to my program that wasn't before. There's just no reason that I would be against another specialty coffee roaster, like bringing someone into specialty coffee. Like this is not really a like, so we're competing for the people that are already into it. Those consumers tend to hop around a lot. I mean, I think you can really when you're like buying like high-end coffee, you want to try that. And that, me too. You want to try. That's why my subscription program is so based on like a structured exploration where you could, maybe you aren't as confident in like reading about the processing and the flavor notes and knowing how to treat that coffee. Maybe you want a little structured guidance. That's where my subscription thing is like, okay, maybe you feel you're not quite ready to go out there and be like, okay, I'm going to pick out this coffee because I know it's going to be good. I'm going to treat it this way, brew it this way. It's more like, okay, Tim's going to send me something and he's going to tell me this is how maybe you should brew it. And then the next week or next month, you get something that's a little different. We talk about what is the difference? What do those processing terms mean? These coffees may be from different places. How do they differ because of that? There's a lot of things that we can talk about with each coffee, but the main thing is that I relate the coffees as we go through with each other. So there's kind of some of that context. So then next time, maybe, I mean, I don't expect people to, I mean, I have had some subscribers for like 3 years now. That I've never left, but some come and go, and it's like, I hope that I played like an important role in like teaching them a little bit about what some of these terms about like post-harvest processing that are so prevalent in like specialty coffee now. You're trying to break in, you'll see stuff about wash process, natural process, honey process. And what is that? And you can look it up online, but I mean, you know how it is like Googling stuff these days with AI, and so like the answer they'll give you. Try Googling something that you know about, and I've found a few situations where like the AI thing at the top, I'm like, I know that's not right.
100%.
Like, so I especially now more than ever, it's like, try like, you're just giving trust to someone that you know is like a real person who's trying to like tell you and give like lived experience and advice based on real life situations. Not just, Google's great, but like, I'd rather someone else tell me. And I hope other people are like that too.
I am now getting to the point where I just skip past like the AI thing, or if I see the AI thing,
I try not to look at it.
click
Yeah.
the link that is linked in it. I wish Google didn't do that. I don't think it added anything to the Google search. I think it made it worse.
Well, now, because now I'm glad I noticed first. I started reading them with stuff that I was actually knew about.
Yep.
And I could see that was wrong. So now that whenever I look something up, I'm like, okay, I should double check that.
Yeah.
Because it's easy just to look at if you're just Googling a quick question, just be like, oh yeah, okay. But no, it's that might be wrong.
Well, I think about I remember as a kid when we first got Google, oh yeah, I'll go 5-6 pages deep, something to find different sources, things like that. Now, if I skip past the first page, it's like...
Remember, I'm feeling lucky.
I've never used that button. I don't think it's...
You should have. You should have, because it was fun. Hank, they got rid of it. I don't think it's around anymore.
I never use it a day in my life.
You really should have. It took you to a random website, man.
Oh, yeah. I remember someone talked about the day TikTok got shut down. It's what other websites do you miss? And people talked about I remember when StumbleUpon was just...
StumbleUpon was good shit.
It was so good. It was there's all this other internet.
That was funny.
And it was great. You found weird things, and now I just feel I visit the same 4 websites. I check my Gmail.
Yeah, there's only 4 websites now.
10 times too much.
Yeah, my wife was telling me about how Tumblr used to be a thing. I'm I'm not familiar with that.
Forgot about Tumblr.
Yeah, there's just a whole subculture. It's just that all this stuff that used to be is on TikTok now, that it was still around 10 years ago. It was just on Tumblr.
It's on Tumblr. There was a lot of adult content on Tumblr.
Yeah, a lot of stuff her situation is definitely I should not have been reading that stuff.
Oh, that was... Yes, the internet was a dark
I never
place.
went on there, yeah.
I never went on there.
I'm glad I wasn't.
I just remember the day they blocked 18 plus content, it apparently destroyed them. I was oh, apparently secretly adult
When did
content.
they do that? 2019.
I must have been 18 when that happened, so that would have been 15 years ago or something like that.
Dang, right when you were allowed.
Yeah. Right when I was allowed to legally click that 18 plus button.
Terrible.
Buying M-rated games
Terrible
for half of the time. All right, so the coffee business, you've got the subscription model, which I know has existed. I didn't realize yours was quite as in-depth where you actually tell people how to roast it. And as someone who is...
Yeah, and that's something that I need to do a better job of, right?
No, that's a fantastic way to do it, because my wife and I finally pulled the trigger on... She bought an espresso. We found an open box one. Amazon open box is my favorite way to buy things that are too expensive normally. We did that. It was this is terrible coffee. This is not a real espresso in any way. And then we sold that, and we ended up with a little Breville thing. I was all right, I have to teach my wife to tamp. I have to teach her to actually raise her blade.
Skills.
Yes, good skills to have. And that has actually gotten her off of making the sugary Starbucks drinks to now she's I actually like an Americano with a little bit of non-dairy creamer. It's oh my God, that's an amazing place to get.
Oh yeah, that's where my wife's at these days.
It's just... God, when I worked at Starbucks, I learned so quickly. It's these people who claim they like coffee really like Snickers that has a coffee aftertaste.
Yeah, I can't. I don't like the feeling of drinking milk at all. So I just can't imagine waking up in the morning and being I need some milk.
Dude, when I would work the Starbucks opening shift,
The opposite of coffee.
yes, I'm fine with a latte, but I'd have people show up at 5:30 in the morning, and this mail lady would come every day. And she would get a venti mocha frappuccino and a chocolate chip cookie to start her day. And I'm that is insane to me. What if I started the day off with
They
milkshake?
took the cortado now and they made it bigger.
Is that what
you
that
hear
is?
about
I
this?
saw it on the menu and I was oh, they fine.
That's not what that's supposed to be.
That.
That's not.
Because it's basically supposed to be an espresso with...
He'll make you a cortado. Yeah, it's equal parts espresso and milk. It's supposed to be 2 ounces.
Yeah. They have
the macchiato they already ruined because the macchiato is $1.
Yeah,
It's supposed to be $1. That's
None
like
of
an
that
espresso,
stuff.
pure espresso drink, and now all of a sudden it's this big chocolatey.
I remember when I worked
thing.
there, and I came from the fitness industry too, so I calorie tracked, and I remember getting a matcha, and then I looked up the sugar count, and about 50% of that powder is sugar. It's
Sure.
this is not what matcha is supposed to taste like. And there's I'm forgetting the name.
Here, it's not like that.
There's the coffee shop or the tea shop in Northeast that has their own matcha mill, and I know, my wife is so much I don't like real matcha because it tastes like dirty water.
That's a.
It's fair.
Sorry,
I
I
read those. That's fine. It's part of it.
I didn't.
I don't have
forgot that was there.
I don't have a cough button.
Usually that's the move.
But it tastes I don't know if you ever have kratom or kava and stuff like that. So I had kava when I was in Fiji, And that just tastes like dirt water that makes your lips tingle. Like, it tastes gross.
Yeah, or what's the like Argentine one?
There's a variety of different things. You're like, we took this root that no one should drink, and we're like, what if we just made dirt into some...
Mate.
Yes. I like mate.
I like mate too. It's real.
Granted, also that in the big yellow cans is like 50% sugar, and I can't do it.
Oh, not that. I'm talking about the gourd.
No, I've never
I had a
actually
friend from Argentina in college, and she would walk around with a gourd, like literally just like what it sounds like, ceramic gourd with a like metal straw in it, and just like put your mate in there, and you pour your water in there, and you just walk around. And you're supposed to pass it around.
I like that. All right. But, like, I'm constantly amazed at like these weird local drinks and stuff like that. I don't know. It also is just like, yeah, everyone was basically trying to get high on something.
Yeah,
So
we're just trying to
that's-
do anything. Yeah, literally just anything for a butts. You know.
Yeah,
it's-
you just need to do something. We don't have TikTok, we don't have TV. Like, what the hell are we gonna do with our time?
That came right back, man. I'm not on that shit. But then I am seeing like a big opportunity here. I mean, this is a little cynical, I guess, in a way, but I am kind of that anti-digital thing.
Oh no,
It's like people are just getting away from Instagram and stuff, and it's like, how do you want to get your information? You know,
Yep.
like it seems weird to say, but like sometimes just getting an email now is like
The better way to do it.
yeah. I know people's emails are kind of crazy, and maybe you don't necessarily feel like you want to sign up for emails, but like, what's the alternative here? You know?
I work in an industry where like they say we're supposed to do like 36 touches a year to be able to get a client to want to resell with you, rebuy with you, something like that. Remember who you are, because like there's 3 million of us out there. And I'm like, I don't want to just send another blanket newsletter of here's how much prices.
At least
It's
in your
digital
inbox- At
harassment.
least in your inbox, they have some control.
Yeah.
If you're sending, they can unsubscribe. Or you usually can unsubscribe. But we
It's picked up someone's phone where like you see that mail app and it's like I have 12,000 emails. I've never
It's
opened
really
it.
messy thing. One thing about my emails though is that like with my subscribers, I do send newsletter blasts, of course. But for the subscribers, it's just a direct from me to you
A
email.
BCC
There's no BCC.
Really?
It's a direct to you.
I really
I
like
go
that.
through each subscriber.
Oh my
And
god.
I send them a coffee card, and I send them a little personalized note. And I kind of have a template that I'm like basing it off of for like to get my concepts across. But I do like they're personalized.
But that's a good
because
thing.
I know with what I have, so it doesn't take me. It does take me a while.
Yep.
It can take me a couple hours to go through and do everyone. But every time someone gets it delivered from me, they get a coffee card, which is like it comes with it.
Okay.
And it has pictures and kind of not generic, but like kind of a standard explanation of like, this is where this coffee's from, this is with it, kind of in depth. Like it's in depth about the process that it went through to get from coffee cherry to bag and to
education.
just pure education. But then the notes are a little bit more like, here's how I would brew this, or things like that, or here's how it compares to your last coffee that I got you.
Yep.
When I do the big newsletters, I often will try to kind of, sometimes I will, after doing all these, I have a lot of ideas floating around in my head from talking to all these subscribers about their coffees, which just constitutes my menu. So I'll kind of then get that all together in one email, and I'll do like, my last one, I literally called it a short geography lesson, because I explained what the Albertine Rift is in Africa. I'm like, we're doing coffees around this area. Here's how like the coffee industry kind of works in that area, because the south of Ethiopia and Kenya, not as common, and that's my current series. So like sometimes, like that's what I find really interesting about the coffee. Like we can talk for days and days about tasting notes and brewing and stuff, but it's like you have to go do that yourself. I can't do that for you. I can't like tell you how it's gonna taste. I can, but you got to show, not tell. So I like to talk about some of these other things, like what's the story, what did the coffee go through? It's fun. It's fun. It's like they're doing the tinkering and stuff that I find so fun, like throwing coffee in big plastic tanks and covering it with water to get it to ferment without oxygen and all sorts of fun stuff.
I didn't realize this is a fermentation process.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I have one right now that is anaerobic fermentation.
Is there any bean that actually grows in proper America, or do you have to go to North
United
America,
States?
Mexico to actually get?
Mexico. I mean, you can grow them.
But it would be like indoor,
Yeah.
almost like running a pot farm. Yet for
But here's the thing about the coffee that I'm sourcing though.
Yeah.
Is that it is like the best of the best because of where it's grown. Like it almost has, it needs to be processed properly.
Okay.
We're getting to the point where the people that are harvesting it are so good at processing it, and we're able to taste this stuff. But it is from the soil and the elevation, and it has a lot to do with like humidity in the air from coming off the sea because the mountains are next to the ocean.
Yep.
You know, stuff like that.
That's the wine thing.
It is.
Like,
We use the
this is
same
wine
word.
Napa can do it.
Yep,
or-
terroir is what they call in wine, and we use the same term,
Okay.
which is the French term meaning like the land or whatever.
If you want to, I don't remember what the name of it, but you can become like a coffee sommelier. Have you ever?
Yeah, it's called a Q grader.
Q grader.
Q grader,
That's
yeah.
far less fun than
I know. Quality. And Q just stands for quality, which isn't even that interesting. No, yeah, that's like a long-term goal of mine. And I think that is incredibly valuable to have that Q education from the SCA, especially Coffee Association.
Yep.
I want to do it for my own personal development.
Yep.
But I think as far as like the reason you would, that's a calibration essentially.
Yep.
Yeah, I gotta get my answer here. You're like calibrating your taste buds to everyone else that is a true grade. So like
Okay.
if you're in one part of the world and you grade a coffee, like say, we have the same 100-point scale too. That's
Okay.
a 9. An 88, like someone in California should also grade it an 88. Like that's the idea, because you're completely on the same page.
Okay.
But in any individual tasting situation or like tasting room,
They're trying to make you the computer basically of
you
like.
can, yes, but you can calibrate to yourselves. Like if you have a group of people that you're always cupping with, say like in your company or whatever, you can calibrate to each other. If you have friends, you guys can calibrate to each other. It's basically like knowing when I say a certain flavor note, what that is gonna taste like. And when you're talking with consumers that don't have that SCA frame of reference,
Yep.
the Q grading becomes less important for that. I think it's really important for communicating with other coffee industry professionals, and it can be a shorthand when you're sourcing coffees. But I think being able to like relate coffees to like, or use terms to describe coffees that are relatable to people is like more important, which is a skill in itself, but it's not necessarily calibrating with that Q framework, right? Because I could say a coffee like tastes like orange, and maybe the Q grader would be like, well, technically it's this or it tangerine or whatever, but maybe I'm trying to get across something right that is juicy that I think wouldn't be understood by another way. So like we always have reasons for using some of these notes. Like I'm trying to get across what your experience is going to be.
Yep.
And the more you hear those notes from specialty coffee roasters and then experience what they mean by it, the more you can connect to that.
More patience than I'm willing to put it.
Right, yeah, people, it is a journey, if you're on like a monthly subscription or something, it's like you figure out, okay, you get a washed honey natural, figure out, oh, I like washed coffees, then you can start looking for coffees that have similar flavor notes listed on the bag, and it's a whole journey.
It takes me back to the place of like, everyone's got that friend who's the snobby beer drinker who's just like, oh, like this IPA, the hops is like, it tastes good, it tastes bad. That's basically where I'm at with coffee.
Yeah, and then that's what I mean by the keyword. It's like it is just a good and bad. Like, do you like it? Like, I'm using the notes to try to get across what it should taste like, so that if you'll like it or.
Okay.
Like, if you just look at something that says like chocolate caramel orange as the tasting notes, and you're like, well, I want something that's like funky and crazy. Like, I'm not gonna get that.
Yep.
You see something that's like boozy, wine, white grape, you're like, oh, okay, all right, that's, it's as easy as that. It really is as easy as that. Like, if that sounds good to you in a coffee coffee format, you should get it. And if you think it tastes good, it is good.
Okay.
I really do strongly believe that. Like, standards are really important, and all my coffees are good, but like, it is kind of an A/B test.
All right.
At the end of the day.
How many roasts do you have though?
I rotate a lot.
Okay.
So right now I'm up, I think my maximum slots is 6 slots.
Okay.
And that is 3 for Latin America and 3 for East Africa.
Okay.
One of those on each side being something I carry the entire year.
Okay.
And then I have a rotational category in each, and then one special.
Okay.
So I don't have a special Latin America. So I have a special East Africa. That's
Okay.
my Kalimbi. My rotational is also the Rwanda Kalimbi, which is the same coffee, just processed 2 different ways. Like literally the same thing, delivered to the same washing station together, separated, and then treated differently. And then another one is my Uganda, which I run a naturally processed Uganda, Burundi,
Okay.
back and forth the whole year.
Okay.
So it's so interesting. I find those coffees really earthy and fruity.
Okay.
And then for Latin America, I really focus. I do a lot of Honduran coffees.
Okay.
So I always have one. I always have one from a Cotopeque,
Okay.
Celine Racinos Jr. It's like my wash. It's like a diner coffee with none of the stuff that you wouldn't like about diner coffee. Just nice and sweet, no nasty aftertaste.
Come on. It's again, the bitter coffee.
Yeah, and I do have that like chocolate caramel one too. You know,
Yeah.
I really have everything. Like I have stuff that's pretty crazy tasting and will smell weird as soon as you reach down to it, all the way to things that are just like, yeah, this tastes like coffee. That's straight up. And that's what I prefer to start my day with. You know, there's
Yeah.
a place for everything.
Well, I don't know. Like every morning, my son is now at a 1.5 years old, and if you ever plan to have kids, boy, is that a fun age in terms of just trying to be put together in the morning, like the stress it causes. And so, like every morning, I stare at my freaking coffee machine. It was like, I just want to make my coffee. I want you to eat your breakfast, and I can sip my coffee while I do it. And right now, if that kid does not get 5 eggs, he is screaming the whole time I'm cooking them. But it's like, it's the thing I get to look forward to. Like, it's the staple. It's comforting. And like, I don't know about you. Like, yes, the first coffee I ever had of yours was a cold brew, but I am someone who, it can be 105 degrees outside. I still prefer the hot coffee. There's something about the taste and the comfort and the warmth that comes with it. I rarely do iced, but it's the ritual of coffee, I think, is the part that, you know, it's good.
I did it this morning, man. I was up. I was like working for an hour. My wife was asleep, and I didn't want to run my grinder. Didn't wake her up, but I made it about an hour, and I was like, I ran it, and I went in to check, and she slept through it.
Yeah.
The grinder's right next to the bedroom door. I don't know how that worked.
White noise machines.
I was running away with noise.
There you go. That's why you do it. Because that apparently works. That like it tricks your brain into like the sound is constant, and therefore any other disturbance is
It must have been that because it's loud.
Yeah, that was one of the things. Like I remember, I did that and a sleep mask. I just tried.
That's what I was sleep every night. Weighted sleep mask.
Ooh, that sounds nice. My wife bought me. Had done the weighted blanket thing for a while.
I have that too.
It was nice. But the issue I always had is like, all right, you can't toss this in a washing machine. And like when I would, it's just like, oh, that machine is going to break through my wall because it's hopping around.
Yeah.
So I got a hug sleep from my wife this year for Christmas, which is one of those like compression blanket things. That's really nice, even though halfway through the night I always end up waking up where it's like, well, now it's around my hips instead of all the way up here. But it's a good human burrito.
Yeah, I've been kicking mine off the bed recently.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, as long as
Put it back later.
it starts fine, and that's all that matters. And
Yeah, we do one big duvet over the bed, and then we each have our own weight-ins.
see, that's the way to do it. And now, like, I keep praying for the day. It's like, how do I get one of those? You see the sponsored ads on YouTube all the time for like the 8 Sleep and stuff like that. It's the mattress cover where it, like, you can heat and cool both sides of the bed.
Yeah, and it's got the.
And it also
set it to be.
texts like your heart rate, and it can vibrate you awake. And every single
Gently rocked awake.
Yes, every single person I've seen online who says they use that, first off, it's like, we have a king bed, so it's like $3,500 just for that. And then they charge a subscription on top of it, which
A subscription.
yeah, because that's the era we're at, a bed subscription.
See, that's this.
Yeah.
Coffee subscription. You know, that's the way to go.
Yes.
You don't need bed subscriptions.
I don't know, like, I know one of my friends has spent a crazy amount on his mattress, but I also sort of respect that. And like, that's where I'm at.
Spend a lot of your sleep time there.
Yeah, and like, that's kind of where I'm at with coffee now. It's like, it's one of these most simple things throughout the day of like, a coffee can make or break my day. It's the way I start my day. If I can have one that is really good and consistent, it just puts me into a better mood than like, I'm sure we've all read the thing like we're traveling and like all we have is the Holiday Inn coffee. It's like, this feels like they got the bean to water ratio mixed up.
Feels like I'm traveling right now.
Yeah.
Like dry mouth.
It's not great. I don't like this. The day's thrown off. And so like, for a while, I tried like, we'll make our savings in the budget of coffee. And then I tried like, I'm just gonna do like a Starbucks bag from Costco, and it's just like, I don't want to do
Can't
this
do it.
anymore. No, like,
It's not fun. You have to. There has to also be like to make it a ritual. It has to be something fun and like that you look forward to. Otherwise, it's
100%.
ritual. And then that's where the rotating thing comes in for me. Where I'm like, okay, this is like a new little adventure. So,
Yes.
and then when you can kind of track when it comes into, you're like thinking about how it's changing as the coffee's aging.
Yep.
You know, maybe over 2 weeks, over a month, having that direct comparison. Yes, can be really fun, which you don't get with some darker roasted coffees. Even if they're great coffees.
Are you still like I remember for a while there, you were like personally delivering the coffee subscriptions. Are you still doing that, or do you offload?
Partially. I got a couple around here. Okay. Because I usually come here on Fridays.
Okay.
It really depends on the week. I'll try to get it, like, if it is going to take more than like 2 hours worth, I'll schedule myself like 2 hours worth of deliveries, basically. And everything else ships.
Okay. No, that's not a bad way to do it. I mean, it's the hard part of, because you're still your only employee.
Yeah, because I have to do some wholesale deliveries often, so like I'll get around, because those I like, kind of have to go do.
Yep.
So I'll get people that live near there, basically.
Obviously, this is a hobby that turned into a sort of career side project type thing. Is this something you want to do full time, or do you like it just as a hobby?
Yeah, I kind of am doing it full time now because I have a decaf company going too.
Is that still minimum wage, Tim, or is that a different
That's
brand?
called Big Bad Decaf. That's a whole other group of people that came to me and made me. I'm just director of coffee for that, and so I sourced a whole menu of only decaf coffees.
Okay.
And I do that in the same machines and all that.
Awesome.
Something to check out.
No, I like that a lot because
If you're into that,
I don't know.
I
People
go over there too.
like the nickname with it works well. It's like people always shit on decaf. What's the one? I was like, I don't know. It's the taste. For me, coffee is more about the taste than it is caffeine.
Big Bad Decaf.
Yeah.
It's big bad. It's like a wolf. It's kind of our mascot.
I was to say. Yeah, I get it.
It's a big bad wolf.
So obviously you've got stuff here. Are you in other coffee shops right now, or is this your main one in Cosmic?
Harmony.
Okay.
And on Hennepin. That's carrying my coffee right now. You can also always go to a couple places. Mother Co. is a plant shop or north on the other side of the river here, and they carry their coffee in. Like I provide them the coffee that they've bought, and then they brew it up for you. So it's just free if you're shopping.
Yep.
You can go in there, have a little coffee, check out the plants. Same thing at Canajoy in South Minneapolis, which is just down the street from Heather's there. Yeah,
Yep.
I met Bob at that market as well.
Yep.
And him and his wife are like seriously the best people like in cannabis in Minneapolis for sure. Like they're my favorite. So
As a subsect, I could go way further down. I'm still amazed we haven't had a bigger influx of the THC seltzers we have. Why are we not getting THC coffees? Like I think I've seen one around.
there was one, and it wasn't very good. I want to do it. It's expensive.
Oh, I'm
to
sure.
produce.
And there's
And
license
then-
for.
And then in order to get it, it costs a lot more to get it shelf stable.
Okay.
And a lot of the shops around here, like seltzers, shelf stable, no problem.
Yep.
They don't have cold storage, so you'd have to pay to put it up in cold storage somewhere too.
Okay. All right.
There's a lot of barriers specifically for coffee because of the coffee in there. It's not the same as like it'll go bad. It has to either be pasteurized or kept cold.
Okay, a whole other subject. Next conversation. All right, and then subscription service. People want to follow you and get on your subscription.
Yeah.
Obviously Instagram, and then
At Minimum Wage Tim on Instagram. A great way to get in touch is going on my website. It'll pop up right away. Enter your email, get on I call it the Coffee Club mailing list. It's just a normal mailing list. You automatically will get 20% off your first order, and that includes subscription. So if you wanted to sign up for a subscription, you'd take 20% off the first one, and it would go back to normal. It's always free shipping for every subscription, no matter what. And individual coffees, over $30 is free shipping. So basically anytime if you get like two 12-ounce bags of coffee or whatever, it's just gonna be free. Yeah, that's the main places to find me. I do a lot of updates on email and Instagram. And like I said, as people are kind of leaving Instagram and leaving some of these other social medias, I think it's like really valuable to like connect with the sources that you actually want to hear from.
100%.
And kind of take it offline in a way, even though email is still online. That's like kind of the closest way we have to offline communication at this point. So
I miss the days when Facebook was actually good social media and not like I went on there yesterday. I was like, oh, this is a hell.
yeah, I'm not on there at all. I only do the Instagram and the newsletter, but yeah, the newsletter is huge. I think it's awesome to be on there. Get you some good perks. I have great deals on here.
All right, we'll follow you. Appreciate you doing the first one.
Thanks, Tim.